5 simple tips to up-level your auditions. So these are a sample of 5 little things that we might suggest or say to an actor to help improve their audition. So you want to talk about the first one?
First one we have today is rate. So at different points in your audition, you can choose to speak faster or slower. So like for a faster example, maybe you're expressing an emotion that is being lodged deep down inside you. You're expressing your love to someone that you've never done that before. And so you're like, I really need to tell this to you right now. And I really do love you. See how you change the rate there? You got a little faster. And then at the end, you slowed down so that you can finally say the thing that you really need to say is, I love you. Use words. Words can be so fun if you really explore them and say them different ways. Don't marry a way of saying a line, because then it's so hard to find different things to do in a scene. Because if you're just practicing, I love you, I love you, I love you, it sounds mechanical. It
Right.
sounds, it's not pleasing. It's not a pleasing thing. I probably wouldn't cast someone if they monotone said use rate in different ways. Do you have any ways of using rate,
Well,
Lars?
I think to talk about it overarching is to make it real life. Tom, our coach, Tom Todoroff, often talks about speaking at the speed of life, and that speed of life, people don't follow punctuation. So that's a huge trap. Is often people's rate is reflecting of the punctuation. So if there's a period, they pause. If there's a comma, they pause. But in real life, they don't do that. I've said several sentences right now with punctuation, but I haven't paused for any of that punctuation. And so it's just also people do change if it's slow, like you're just like you're at a loss for words or looking for how to say something and even what to say. That might be a little slower, just as 2 quick examples. But the reason you want to fuck with rate is in real life, people don't talk in a metronome type scenario. They don't just keep the same rate. And if they do, those are people that you don't want to listen to, because eventually you just tune them out. And if you're a leading actor, you don't want to be tuned out. And if halfway through an audition, casting is falling asleep or just bored to death because you're just doing, like, if it's just back and forth, same rate, same tempo, that's no good. But and you also want to be surprising as an actor as well. So speeding up and slowing down, just like the vocal variation of changing your inflection and your pitch and even volume, all of that, rate being just one way that you can change your vocal variation. It's going to make your audition seem real, and it's going to make you seem like a real human being who is able to surprise and unexpected. And you also need to think the casting directors and production, they know the words. Sometimes they wrote them. So if they see 50 or 100 auditions and everyone's just reading to the punctuation, everyone's just the same rate, none of those actors are going to stand out. But the actor that can bring it off the page by changing the rate, infusing it with some life, acting at the speed of life, making some adjustments where they're speeding up and slowing down. And this would also apply to voiceover auditions as well, too. Or one of the simplest ways you can stand out is just pick a sentence that you want to say a little faster, and pick a sentence that you want to say a little slower, or even words within a sentence. Obviously, the meaning is more important than just a random rate change. It's got to make sense to the storytelling. But those are two little simple things that are going to make your audition stand out compared to 100 other people who are following punctuation and keeping the same tempo the whole time.
Number 2 is visual architecture. So what we mean by this is most of the time it's starting further back and then working your way closer and closer to camera to finish up with a close-up. You can use this in several different ways. One, it can be used as an opposite for if you're telling someone, I can't be with you anymore, we need to break up. But you don't actually want to break up with them. So you're getting closer and closer to them because you really, really just need to be close to them. Even though you're saying, don't, I can't. It also gives you a physical objective, because if you're working your way from the back, where are the points that you step closer? How are you stepping closer? Are you stepping closer by leading with your legs? Are you stepping closer by leading with your heart? Are you stepping closer by leading with your head? How are you doing these things? Always be asking yourselves these questions. At the end, if you're ending up with a close up, you want to maybe not de-voice, because we don't want to whisper, as Tom Todoroff likes to say, it ruins your vocal cords. But you do have to maybe soften your tone a little bit, because you're getting closer to the mic of where you're talking, because most of the time the mic is either in the camera or around the camera. So you want to, like, just lower your volume just slightly, because you're getting closer. Now, I do like to say to actors, you can't back down in performances, because especially if you're walking closer to someone and then you step back, that means something. That means you're uncomfortable with the situation. That means that you don't feel like you have the power. And like, we innately do this stuff in everyday life. We innately will just step back or just step forward. And like, it's not something that we consciously think of. But as an actor, you need to consciously be thinking of these things, so that you have specific choices of when you're stepping forward or when you're stepping back. If you do need to step back, or the story says that you should step back at a certain point, why? Is it because you're receiving some deflating news? Maybe someone you love has just gotten cancer. Then you're being told this by the doctor, and you're like, oh, and you realize this, and it lets you sink in. As we said before, have the thoughts. Have all these thoughts going on, because the closer you are to camera, the more your thoughts are picked up. It's so important. It's so important for film auditions. Do you have anything to add to visual architecture, Lars?
Yeah, just the overall, again, is it's storytelling. And often this is one of the beautiful things about self-tape auditions, is you have control over camera. When it was an audition in the room, you didn't have control. You were lucky enough to ask or be told how they were shooting you,
Yep.
but you might not know. Do they have you in a medium? Do they have you in a wide? You could certainly ask that if you want to, but in a self-tape, and you get to the choice in how you tell the story. So it's storytelling, and often the instructions are just head and shoulders. And I think a massive mistake, and it's a creative mistake, or lack of creativity is what it is, to just plant your feet and be a talking head and shoulders, and think that all I need to do is just say the words as they're written, and that's going to be compelling enough out of 10,000 submissions that you're going to be chosen just somehow randomly, without moving and without changing anything. So yeah, you have the opportunity. We often refer to them as viewpoints too. So if there's a physical moment, say the scene's at a dance, for example, or it's at like a wedding scene for a Hallmark movie, you can start in a wide, like you're at the party, and that gives you a chance to do a little dance move or a little spin, or just something creative that could tell the story. And then if the scene is between you and a loved one, or a potential love mate, then like you mentioned, you can press forward at that moment where it's, are you going to kiss her? Are you not going to kiss her? And you're right there, versus standing there in a medium head and shoulder shot and never moving forward or never moving back. There's no storytelling there. So finding those moments where you can tell a story by your body. It's like acting is vocal and it's physical. Our bodies and our voice are our instrument.
Yes.
And if you're not using, like, the equivalent of not doing this stuff is like playing the piano and playing two notes, where you've got all 88 keys, but you're just doing the same thing. You're not moving, and you're not changing your voice at all. And then you're expecting somehow magically they're going to be like, oh yeah, this guy's going to be amazing. Well, you haven't shown them anything. So you haven't shown them any creative choices, and nothing about that is going to stand out. So yeah, finding those moments for the wides. Also, things like your entrances and exits. Those are the times that give you an opportunity. Like we're often taught, if I leave frame here and then pop in because I forgot something in a little closer, that's enough of a surprise that it's likely going to be kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
So that finding those creative things and not being afraid to make those creative choices. A lot of times people are like, oh, well, what if they don't like that? Or is that what they want? It's like, you can do whatever you want as long as it's justified somehow by the script. But also, you're a creative human being and you're a creative storyteller. So that's on you to bring that to the table. And we always see our auditions as an opportunity to perform and as your opportunity to shoot a little short film. So how would you make that more interesting? You can make it more interesting by these viewpoints and by changing things up as is justified by the script. Like the press in, I love that. Or even finding, you can find multiple positions. So I can enter, you can't quite see me here, but I can enter in a wide spot, sees the person I want to talk to. Oh, there he is. Then I can come to here for my main position for the bulk of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can take one final step in if I need to show a little aggression or a little extra love. I can finish that in a close up. So then all of a sudden, the storytelling is, you got a moment before entrance, like popping in. Oh, where is he? There he is. Come in here, have the conversation. That's 3 different viewpoints that I've shown, rather than the actor who stands here in a medium head and shoulders shot and doesn't move. It's like, what's going to be more compelling? What tells a better story? Obviously, the one that shows a little versatility and a little variety is going to be more interesting to watch. So yeah, it's a great tip and super simple, but it's got to follow the script and it's got to make sense. And the other thing that I would just add to that is, the worst is movement that's not justified. So when you move, you want to move with purpose, move when it's justified by the lines, by the words, like Hamlet's advice to the players: suit the action to the word and the word to the action. And so someone who's got jittery feet and is just doing this, it's very confusing and it's distracting. Or sometimes people tend to move a little back and forth. It's like, plant your feet and then move when it's appropriate to the script and to the scene only. And if there's no justification to move, then don't move. Stay still. And there's also there is a lot of power in that stillness too. So don't think that you got to move like crazy. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just be perfectly still, and that's going to land, especially if it is at the end of a scene or at the end of a dramatic moment or a love moment. Find that spot where you can just do nothing but be still and have the thought, and that's going to be super powerful.
Yeah. All right. Number 3 is humor. Now, humor is guidepost number 4 in the audition book by Michael Shirtliff. Now, what we mean by that and what you can use in your scenes to apply different humor, and humor can be used in so many different ways. It can be used when you're flirting with someone. It can be used when you're teasing someone. It can be used when you're taunting someone. And these all go into guidepost number 13, which isn't in the audition book by Michael Shirtliff. It was created by Tom Todoroff and Michael Shirtliff later on when they began working together. So these are all things that bleed into different guideposts. And it can also show that you're uncomfortable in a situation because especially with laughter, maybe like you're trying to convince yourself that I am comfortable in a very uncomfortable situation. And like you're prepping or you're pumping yourself up, and I find that laughter begets more laughter. So like if you're laughing at a certain point, like maybe the character that you're speaking opposite of says a joke. Like if that's your best friend, you're gonna laugh at that joke. That's a funny joke. Or like if they've done something in a humorous way, or if they've done a Schadenfreude sort of event or something like that. The more you add these different moments into your audition, it will elevate your human level, because you're becoming more, you're being a human being in that situation. Like, I laugh all the time to either make myself more comfortable in a situation, or to establish a relationship with somebody else, or if I'm flirting with somebody else, or if I'm taunting somebody else. These
Right.
different tactics add to your audition, and it's why laughter is such a powerful tool to use in your audition, or humor in general.
Right.
But like, those sorts of moments really do add and really elevate something that you're doing. And it's a great moment before. It's a great moment before that you're laughing into. Oh, but what were you saying before about Jake and his obsession with dogs? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So like, these things can really bring out a new moment and really find new things, and really, and it makes you happy to laugh most of the time. And like, if you're laughing, a lot of the time somebody else is laughing as well. And like, that really helps with casting, because you're like, I like this guy. I really like how fun he is. I really like how fun the scene is, because you're applying humor, you're laughing, you're having fun.
Right.
Do you want to add to any humor, Lars?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about some things that Tom says. He talks about funny is money, charming is disarming, and think about
Mhm.
it in life. Who are the people that you like to be around? It's not the people who are fucking dead serious about everything and they're just the drollest people ever. And you're like, oh my god, why don't you just kill yourself? Like, seriously, it's people who bring charm and they bring levity. So it's and there's different ways to do that, obviously, and we're not talking just about jokes or funny faces per se. It can be playful viewpoints, it can be opposites. Like, one of the simplest things is an opposite of nodding on no or being like yes. I like, just any opposite like that. It's game playing and role playing too. If you're telling a story and you're describing what someone else said to you, it's putting on a little voice. That's something that human beings do, and that's why stand-up comedians are as funny and as compelling as they are, where you can watch a stand-up comic do an hour and a half just by themselves and with a microphone. It's because they're doing these little act outs and these little breakouts where they're using different voices. So finding those moments, yeah, it's just, and it's also undeniable too. There's it's one of the challenge with quote unquote dramatic work is like, well, how do you know if it's really working? And the guideposts really help, but if it's something that's supposed to be comedic, or even if it's not supposed to be comedic, a laugh is a laugh. It's undeniable. So if you're the casting director or the production, and the actor does something that's unexpected, and all of a sudden you laugh, that's proof positive. It's so you can't laugh and then be like, that wasn't funny. No, you laugh. Just like if you go to see a stand-up comic, and if an entire audience is laughing at the joke, well, you can't really say that guy wasn't funny. It's like, well, if he wasn't funny, then why did 300 people laugh at everything he said? So
Mhm.
it's proof positive. Like, there's no denying laughter and humor, and it makes everyone feel better. And you never met someone that made you laugh that you didn't feel good about,
Yeah.
really. It's just one of those things. It's so powerful, and I think people shy away from it, thinking it's going to be too much or too big. But and it's mining the script. So where are those moments where you can find it, even if it's not written? Michael Shirtliff in his book always talks about the negative is always written on the page. So often there's negative, and if you take it literally, it's a real negative thing. But
Mhm.
you can say some horrible shit with a smile on your face, and all of a sudden it's hilarious. So you can find those opposite moments, and you can really mine a script, and all of a sudden your take on something where you find the positive, you find the love, you find the humor. You
Mhm.
can take a scene that on paper looks like a miserable argument between two people, and all of a sudden it's a real funny meet cute between two people that's really charming and delightful to watch. Instead of, on paper, which is how a lot of actors will decipher things, is they'll take everything literally with no subtext, or not realizing, oh, okay, this is a guy and a girl who are meeting, so maybe these are playful jabs, not literal disses. So just finding those opportunities to bring humor and bring levity. And if you think about that in the grand context of the world, there's a lot of negative shit in the world right now. So just the fact that a casting director or a producer is going to watch you and have their day lightened and lifted a little bit by some funny viewpoints or some funny moments that you found that other actors didn't, that's going to make their life and their day a little better, which may mean that they want to cast you in that role because they're thinking, oh shit, maybe having this guy or girl on set for 3 weeks is going to be really fun. And that's going to make all of the other horrible things in the world that are happening right now feel a little less prominent. And I'm going to enjoy my time on set with this person rather than watching the news or thinking about their divorce or whatever might be going on in their life.
So number 4 is discoveries. What is new? What has never happened to you before in this scene? What is something that you can find in your scene? Like Lars did a great example of it earlier when he discovered the body and he was like, and like the easy things to do just to get that moment so that it means so much more. Because if it's new for you, it's new for us too, right? Anything to add to discoveries, Lars?
Well, yeah, I think it happens so often in scenes and people don't register it. Like if anytime you're coming to find someone, like you're entering an office or you're entering a party, a lot of the times on a first take, you'll see someone walk in and they just walk in and the person's just there. There's no like, they're not scanning the room and then finding them, or they're scanning the room and then there's a little double take. There's often none of that, or it's finding something in the room that you notice. It might be scripted that you notice it, but then you just look at it, or rather than actually naturally like scanning the room and, oh, what is that? And then you actually see me see it. So it's finding those moments. And there's beats in scenes where if you miss that beat, casting is going to see that. Well, we didn't even see them. Like, you're looking for the woman of your dreams. The second you see her, we better fucking see you see her.
Yes.
Or you're seeing this person that you've never met before, and your jaw drops when you see them because they're so amazing. It's like, yeah, that's a discovery and a moment and a viewpoint that we need to see in casting and production. And the other thing about discoveries is that's often what makes, there's a danger in acting, especially with prep, is you hear the term where, yeah, acting is great, just don't be caught doing it. Like, you don't want to look like it's a performance. And if you don't have those little moments, those are the moments that make something seem real, where that's it adds some spontaneity to it, I guess, is the lesson, is having that discovery of, oh, boom, there's something that you saw in the moment in real time, versus you pre-planned it, you premeditated it, you pre-rehearsed it 1,000 times, and it's just there, and you miss that moment of having that genuine discovery. And it's just a simple way that you can up level your performance, and you can cross that line of being an actor acting to just being a person who's just being a human being.
And a great question to add to that is, what do I expect to happen when I reveal something, and what does actually happen? Because we're always fighting for a dream. We're always fighting for something bigger than ourselves, or something bigger than the scene in general. So what do you expect when you say, I love you, Sally? You expect her to say, I love you too, Brandon. But then you get a thank you. And how does that make you feel? What does that discovery make you? How does that get you going into the next point in the scene. It comes back to justification, really.
Right. That what you just mentioned is the obvious discoveries are visual discoveries. That's real easy to find something, to find a person, to see an object. But the other discovery is new information as well.
Hmm.
New information told to you that changes everything in the scene.
Yes.
Where and that often is a big beat change in the scene as well. If you're looking like, well, where does this scene change? You don't want the scene to just be the same all the way through. So often that discovery of new information, or if it's like a crime drama type thing, someone tells you this brand new piece of evidence. Well, now that changes everything because, oh shit, it's not the guy I thought who did it. It's that guy. Like that epiphany type moment is the type of moment that you're looking for with discoveries.
Yes, exactly. And to round off this discussion, we have number 5, buttons.
The button,
Oh,
which often relates to humor as well. And in
yes.
my opinion, if you can find an extra last moment where you can get a little laugh from casting something
Hmm.
unexpected. But the way you want to think of it is not how can I get a random laugh? It's if the director didn't yell cut, what comes next? And often
Yes.
when you are on set, you shouldn't like you're not cutting. You as the actor are not the person to be like, okay, scene done, cut, and scene. Like you're not actually doing that in real life on set.
Mm-mm.
So continue to play the scene out. And and it's a great way to stand out. It's a great way to show that you're creative, that you've
Hmm.
got some improv chops. Often if it's something that works, like, and I would say only add it when you know it works. Um, and so you might have to have some comedic sensibility to do that, which some people have, some people don't have as strong as others. But if you have an instinct and you're like, "Ooh, I like that," then go with it and get that last line, especially if your character maybe doesn't have a ton of lines or doesn't have the last line.
Yeah.
Give yourself the opportunity and don't worry about it that it's like, "Oh, well, it's not scripted." Guess what? They can cut it. But the fact that casting sees you add to it and enhance and lift up a scene, or even
Hmm.
the writers or producers, directors might be like, oh shit, we can just let the camera roll and let this guy roll, and he's gonna come up with things that are as good or better than the script. Now, you got to be careful with that because you want to treat the writing like hallowed ground, and often the writer is the showrunner or one of the producers, or the writer might be watching your audition, so you don't want to stomp all over their writing. But adding one more line at the end of it is one of the easiest ways to do things. And it doesn't even have to be a line. It could be something physical that you do. It can just be a last look. But really the point is paying real close attention, just if like the moment before, what
Hmm.
leads you into the scene, what takes you out of the scene at the end. What is your first impression and your last impression. People are going to remember the beginning and they're going to remember the end. And often when I'm looking at my takes, I'm often choosing what I feel is the best take and the take I'm going to submit almost solely based on the opening beat and the closing beat. And the middle is kind of the middle. If I
Hmm.
flub something, or maybe something is not quite as strong or exactly how I wanted, I don't ever want to submit. Certainly if the opening beat and the opening moment and the opening line isn't bang on and really strong, and I made a strong choice, and the end isn't strong, I'm
Hmm.
probably not wanting to use that take. If there's something off in the middle, I can get away with that and be okay with it. But it's the beginning and the end, and that's psychological. Something called the primacy and recency effect is the phenomenon of you can go to an hour long thing and you're going to remember the opening and you're going to remember the closing. If you have a
Yep.
conversation with somebody, you're going to remember the first thing they said to you and the last thing, and then the middle is kind of the middle, and it's a little bit of a jumble.
Hmm.
But just really focusing on that, and then as a comedian and having a sense of that, that's one of my favorite things. Running sessions is, ooh, what about this? And just feed one last line
Hmm.
as the scene is ending before you fade on it, or even fading on that last line. So you're fading and closing out the scene, but getting that last word or that last look or that last
Yeah.
point in there.
And
Maybe
there's a lot of stories of people that have added a button and it has been added into the script, and they've gotten reoccurring roles that were only supposed to happen for one, maybe two episodes. And now they have a reoccurring role just because of some button that they added that has become a character trait of theirs on the show.
Yeah, and it's just having the confidence to do that, seeing yourself as a storyteller, seeing yourself as a creative person,
Mm-hmm.
and going into that audition as, what do I have to offer? For me, that's part of what I offer as an actor, is the ability to improvise and the
Yes.
ability to enhance a script with my own thoughts and my own words. And that's what leading actors do. Now, um, if you're auditioning for a functionary character, like you're the bellhop or the concierge or the hot dog man or the taxi driver, and it's just real quick and it's really not about you, you might be a little more judicious in your use of that. But I would still say, if it's something that you feel works and you have the instinct and the thought, then I would still include it. Maybe not always. Like if you're going to submit 2 or 3 takes, you might do one as scripted only, just to be like, I want to show casting and production that I can do it their way, and then have a little creative liberty in your other two. But again, for me, it's, if you're buying me and you're going to pay for me as a performer and as a creative person, then that's what you're getting. So I want to be showing casting and production that part of my value on set is, I'm going to find these buttons and I'm going to find extra humor possibilities that are not scripted. And don't be afraid of that. And I know that a lot of people are afraid, like, oh, what do they want? Oh, am I allowed to say something that's not in the script? Well, yeah, you can. You don't want to stomp all over their writing, and you don't want to put it all in your own words. But if you're 99% bang on book, and then you add something hilarious at the end that gets a laugh across the board from production, that's not going to go, like, no one's going to be like, oh, that was hilarious, but it wasn't in the script, so you can't get cast. Like, that's never going to happen. So just trusting that, trusting in your creativity, and trusting that if you have a strong idea, to offer it up there and they can take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think that's the most important thing, is adding those personal elements that like make you you, because there's no one else like you in the world. And
Right.
so make it unique to you, because then no one else is doing it like that.
And the great thing about a button is, no one else is going to do it. If they're watching 100 audition tapes,
Mm-hmm.
well, everyone hopefully is going to say all the words in the script. So if you're the one person who says a certain thing that's really fits, and again, it's got to fit. So don't just
Yeah.
say it to say it. But
Mm-hmm.
if they didn't say cut, what is the next thing that your character could or would say? Throw that in there, and by default, you're going to stand out, because you're the only one who did it, because it wasn't on paper. It was your own thought. It was personalized,
Mm-hmm.
and it was something very unique to you. And
Yes.
that's going to stand out. Be like, oh, yeah, that's the guy that said the thing at the, yeah, that guy. Let's have him. Yeah, put him
Mm-hmm.
in the callback pile.